Thank you, Ty. Again, my name's Teresa Pedretti. I'm a cover crop sales lead here at Albert Lee Seed. And today I'm just going to cover some of the new cover crop products and offerings we'll be carrying for the 2025 growing season coming up. So what is a cover crop? First things first, I know as many of you are organic growers, you know all about cover crops. They can provide many ecosystem services to our agricultural landscapes. And I think one of the big challenges, though, as a grower is determining your top 2 to 3 goals with growing a cover crop. Do you need the cover crop to help suppress weeds, fix nitrogen, improve overall soil health? Just how to make them work within your crop rotation. I like to think of them as like another tool in our toolbox that we can utilize. This is a nice visual that shows the many benefits of cover crops. Some would even say that, they're kind of like the Swiss Army knife for organic rotations. They can do so many good things for us. So being aware of what your top cover crop goals are always important in order to fit them better into your organic farm system and help you select the right cover crop seed for your operation. Now, this is a kind of a busy slide, but I like it. It's a nice chart from the USDA showcasing just the wide diversity of species within the world of cover crops. Here at Albert Lee Seed, we carry as many of these species as we can, and we try our best to source or contract grow those and source organic when possible. Taking a look at this chart, you can see there are some major plant families within it. There's grasses and legumes, and even within the plant families themselves, cool season species versus warm season species, and a lot of different families in between. You've got the brassicas kind of paired in this yellow spot, but there's also families like the beet family, flax, which is in the Liniaceae family, and then even over on the warm season side, species like buckwheat, chicory, cucurbits. There's just a lot of plants in this whole cover crop world. And I guess with that being said, we're going to dive into what some of the new offerings we'll have for 2015 are. Just a quick slide on what's happening behind the scenes. There's actually a lot of work being done right now to update our farm seed catalog and website. We're busy adding some of these new products, updating pricing and availability. We're hoping actually within this next week or so to have our website up to date with new products, pricing, availability. And then obviously with catalogs, they have to be printed, and those would follow in the upcoming year. That being said, for those of you who are interested in locking in some cover crop seed or other seed before the year end, please feel free to reach out to your nearest dealer or contact us directly at any time with questions and to get orders placed. Okay, kind of with that housekeeping out of the way, we'll move on to some of our new products. So one new product to our cover crop lineup. Now this is a conventional untreated product, would be the Shogun medium red clover. This is a high yielding multi-cut clover that we selected both because it's got improved disease resistance and it's got really good forage production. When you establish it in the fall, it can exhibit really early spring growth coming out of winter. So for organic systems, potentially more biomass accumulation early, more nitrogen fixation potentially earlier than other medium red clovers on the market. In general, medium red clovers are fairly shade tolerant, so another good application of this product in terms of cover cropping would be to use it for interseeding applications. And then the basics, planting dates with medium red clover, you can frost seed, plant in early spring, late summer, early fall, depending on where you're located. From there, we're just going to move on to another new product in our conventional untreated cover crop lineup would be the Felix faba beans. Now these are unique because they're actually a small seeded faba bean. Um, so compared to other varieties that we've carried in the past, they have been about 1,400 seeds per pound. This is 1,900 seeds per pound, so a slight difference, but we feel like this will help make them mix better than the other traditional faba beans that we have used in mixtures. These are also in the legume family. So faba beans are a legume and they have excellent nitrogen fixing capabilities. The caveat there, though, is these faba beans actually like cool growing conditions. So they grow this as a crop up in Canada, and researchers in Canada have seen, 80 to 160 pounds of nitrogen fixed per acre. Um, but that's where they can get 6, 7 feet tall. These plants really don't like hot temperatures, and actually, the farther south you go, they just tend not to grow as tall unless you're growing them during the cooler parts of the year. Another unique thing about faba beans that kind of makes them unique is they like cool, wet soils, or they can tolerate waterlogging. A lot of legume species don't like wet soils, especially those in the bean family. They have beautiful flowers that are very beneficial to beneficial insects. Another unique thing about these faba beans is, well, and faba beans in general, not just Felix, but they have hollow stems. So there hasn't been any research done on this, but potentially they could be a product used for roller crimping applications. And another watch out is they're just not great for grazing. So if you did want to use them in a grazing mix, um, they probably won't be grazed because they are bitter and are not very palatable. Planting date, early spring, late summer, early fall, and seeding rate 60 to 100 pounds per acre for a cover crop application. It is in particular with these 1,900 seeds per pound. Okay, so next product in the conventional untreated lineup that we're adding, and we actually added it this fall, is the Wyo winter peas. This is a selection of Austrian winter peas selected for improved winter hardiness. Most winter peas actually don't survive in the north. So this line, or this variety in particular, has shown very good winter survivability. Some caveats with it, though, is you got to plant the winter peas deep. So these do best planted 2 to 3 inches deep, and that's because that can help protect the growing point, especially from ice or ice shearing. Got to get these planted deep enough so that growing point is protected. Another interesting feature of these Wyo winter peas is that they've actually performed best planted a little bit closer to freeze up. Traditional advice has been to plant winter peas in Minnesota at least earlier, like in late August, early September. There was actually a planting date trial in Minnesota that showed, in particular, these Wyo winter peas survived better if planted more mid-September, late September, than if planted at an earlier date. And in particular, this Wyo winter selection. Oh, and the third thing, don't want to forget, besides planting 2 to 3 inches deep, planting in that right planting window for your operation, also planting with a grass such as winter triticale, winter rye, also improves the survival of these winter peas. And again, I just put for Minnesota based on those trial dates, mid to late September. And that can, as you go south, move that back a little bit. As you go north, push it up. Majestic Crimson Clover is another one for our conventional untreated lineup that we're adding. This is an improved crimson clover. Historically, we've only carried variety not stated or Dixie, and we selected this. It's got strong resistance to northern and southern anthracnose, powdery mildew, and alfalfa mosaic virus. It's got excellent cold tolerance compared to other varieties on the market like Dixie. We have had grower feedback that the crimson clover that they grow has overwintered in northern zone 6. So with Majestic, we're hoping to push that a little bit further north. And one main reminder too with crimson clover, to get best survival overwintering, be sure to plant these species 6 to 8 weeks before your first hard frost date. And then in the far north in Minnesota, we still recommend planting this in the spring or as a summer cover crop, just because it still doesn't have enough winter hardiness to survive in the far north. For those who are located in more temperate climates, one nice thing if you can establish this in the fall is that it's earlier blooming for quick spring nitrogen fixation when fall planted. And because it's a newer, improved variety with better disease resistance, it's got superior forage yields, and it's also got good regrowth. Planting date, again, depends on location. In Minnesota, we would still say plant this in the spring or throughout the summer, whereas in locations where you can get crimson clover to overwinter, it's a great fall planted cover crop. Okay, now we're on to some of the new offerings for or certified organic cover crop seed. So this first one is white Dutch clover. It's a low growing clover with really good traffic tolerance. It's kind of known for its persistence once established. I'm sure many of us have it growing in our lawns. Once it gets a foothold, it's there for a long time. As far as cover crop applications go, this is often used as a living mulch in orchards or on vegetable operations. One of the watchouts is avoid dry soils. It needs good moist soils to thrive. And in general, again, this is a good one to use as a living mulch. We often throw it into pasture mixes, but it has less biomass than like a forage selected variety, such as say white clover, like Ladino white clover. So just keep that in mind. It's really low growing. It's not going to produce as much biomass or fix as much nitrogen as some of its counterparts that have higher potential biomass. As with many of our clover species, this one in particular can be frost seeded, planted in spring or late summer, and seeding rate 6 to 8 pounds per acre, no deeper than 1/4 inch. Another new organic offering for this coming season is common vetch. Now this is a viney legume, grown mainly as an annual here in the upper Midwest. It's not as cold hardy as hairy vetch, so that can be a pro and a con. Because it doesn't overwinter, especially for organic operations, it's less likely to set seed and persist in crop rotations versus, hairy vetch, which is a great cover crop for organic systems, but sometimes does set seed and poses more management issues. Another, compared to its cousin hairy vetch, common vetch is a determinate plant. It sets its pods and is just done growing, whereas hairy vetch is an indeterminate plant. It will keep flowering and keep growing. And so that's, just a basic thing to know about common vetch. And again, common vetch it's a nitrogen fixer. It's good growth for cover cropping. It's in the legume family. Planting date with this one, we recommend spring or late summer, early fall, depending on your location, at about 50 to 60 pounds per acre. Okay, another one that's not necessarily brand new to our lineup, but due to crop failure, we didn't have it in 2024. Organic cowpeas are returning. So, and this year we'll actually have both iron and clay and black-eyed cowpeas available organically. Both of these cowpea species are warm season legumes. The black-eyed compared to the iron and clay, they're a little bit more of an upright, bushier growth, which less biomass than the iron and clay, which can get very viney, but both have long growing seasons and are quite drought tolerant and heat tolerant. Cowpeas too are a legume. If grown in the summer months, they can fix up to 150 pounds of nitrogen per acre. Planting date, these should be planted in the summer once the soil has gotten to 60 degrees or above. As a species, they just cannot tolerate frost, or they're very frost sensitive. So these are only going to be growing during the warmest times of the year, but their ability to fix nitrogen is pretty impressive. Another warm season species, but this time we're transitioning over to a grass species, is Proso millet. So this will be a new product in our organic line for cover cropping this year. Again, it's a warm season grass. Out of all the millets we carry, it's actually one of the fastest growing. Commonly, we've carried it for an emergency forage, but in as little as 40 to 50 days, it can produce 2 to 3 tons of dry matter. So it can accumulate a lot of biomass very quickly. So it'd be a good cover crop to use in a short window. Another point I should just state is that if you are using it as a cover, you may need to plan on mowing it, just because it can set seed in as little as 70 days. And you don't want it to be actually become a weed issue for you. So just keep that in mind if you are growing Proso millet. It can go to seed relatively fast, and you may need to plan on mowing it depending on the year. So don't let it go to seed. Don't let it become a weed problem if you don't want it to. And again, with all these warm season species, it's best to wait till the soil is in the 60 degrees or above to get them off to a fast, good start. And the last product that I'll be chatting about today is the dwarf S6 rapeseed. This is kind of exciting. We've had organic radish available the last few years, but in addition to the organic radish, we'll have the dwarf Essex rapeseed for this year. It's a member of the Brassica plant family. It's highly palatable for grazing. It's got really good leafy top growth. And, whereas the radish is known more for its root growth, I like to think of dwarf Essex more known for its top growth. It persists well after the first frost and usually doesn't overwinter in the upper Midwest. I guess it depends on our winter conditions. And this one, again, it has a moderate potential to alleviate soil compaction, but not as much as, say, a radish or turnip would. So mild or moderate potential. Planting window on this spring, late summer, early fall. And yeah, seeding rate's pretty low as a small seeded brassica species. And with that, I guess, thank you for taking time today to join us. If anyone has questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Lastly, we are always looking to improve our cover crop seed lineup. So if anyone thinks we are missing something, please send me an email, give me a call. We're always looking to add new things to our lineup that would be good for organic farmers. So yeah, please reach out. And I guess I'm not sure if there's any questions that came in or not. Otherwise, I can pass it over to Paul.
I guess, yeah. One question here is, what do you, what would you say to someone who is thinking about getting the cover crops, just really hasn't started yet, kind of just been him and Han about it? What do you suggest be the first thing that they do?
Oh, well, I think the first thing everyone should do is figure out what their top goal is for growing a cover crop, because that will help kind of narrow down or filter what species you should be considering or what type of mixtures. So for example, if you're an organic grower and you don't, maybe you want to grow a legume species to fix nitrogen, knowing that nitrogen fixation is your number one goal, selecting appropriate species and figuring out how that will fit in to your cropping system. Because yeah, the faba beans are great. They can fix up to 160 pounds of nitrogen, but they're a cool season plant, so they're not going to be able to do that for you, with shorter windows or depending on where you're calling from. But hopefully that answers that question. But figure out what your number, maybe number 1 and 2 goals are, because because that helps filter down how to select or where to start.
We did get one question that come in here. What would be the best cover crop mix for southern Minnesota to be applied over the top of a late season soybeans? Looking to establish biomass to inject manure into the field in late fall.
Okay, repeat that one more time.
Yes, that was kind of so what is the best cover crop mix for southern Minnesota to be applied over the top of a late season soybean? They're looking for to establish a biomass so they can inject manure into it in the fall.
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind, if you're harvesting those soybeans late, that probably means sometime late September, October. So at that point, you're kind of running out of time to grow a lot of species just because you're running out of growing season. And I would naturally go towards like a winter grain like winter rye, winter triticale, um, something of that nature. Now you want to mix probably because you want more diversity and you don't just want to grow a monoculture of one species. So it really is dependent on exactly when you're harvesting those late, because if you're into October, you are pretty much limited to winter grains. Again, things like winter wheat, winter rye, winter triticale, and winter camelina. If it's slightly before that, I think you can also, like if you're in that September window, then you can add in species like radish or turnip, hairy vetch, that winter pea. Actually, a nice one I would like to see, especially as we get more feedback on how wild winter does, maybe even a nice mix of a winter grain with the wild winter peas would be
Mm, yes.
an interesting one.